thank everybody for taking the time to sit for this breakout session. What we're going to spend the next 40 minutes kind of talking about is just giving a little bit of a snapshot of kind of how our company, McCarthy, how we've used technology in addition to how we use Procore and a few other solutions to kind of help transform how we track our safety program and just kind of some of the evolution of that over the last couple of years. So I'm Rob Graham, Vice President National Safety with McCarthy. Been with the company for about 20 years out of our St. Louis office. Just real quick, a little bit about McCarthy. This is just kind of a quick snapshot. National general contractor. We're all over. Like I said, headquartered in St. Louis. We're growing. Things are busy. Those numbers that you see there are definitely going to change if this gets updated next year. So just a little bit about us as a company. And what I want to kind of kick things off and just kind of start just talking about the evolution of kind of how we changed, of how we started, to track and improve on how we manage our safety program, is to take a step back and look at the challenges. When we talk about how our projects used to do their safety inspections, how we as a company used to track our safety inspections and all of our other documentations, it was very clunky. It was very, just call it outdated. And the bottom line is it provided zero value primarily to our job sites and to us as a safety department and the company overall. Number one, we had no easy way to analyze any of the inspections that were coming to us. Back in the day, I'm sure this is no different than everyone else sitting in this room. How did we do all of our safety inspections? It was a clipboard. It was something that was printed out. Somebody would go out and scan it or complete the inspection, scan it, send it into the office, and that's about all it ever was, all right? It was inconsistent. The job sites, again, they really didn't have any way to, run a report off of the inspections they completed. We didn't really have the ability to run a report. It was nothing more than a check the box report card system. Did you complete and submit your reports on time each month? Yes or no? It was a clunky spreadsheet that we would track, which job sites got it in on time, which job sites didn't. If you didn't get it in on time, you could expect a phone call from your director yelling at you as to why you didn't. And that was the basis of it, all right? It was no value. Really, the only reason we did that was so we had some backup and documentation, something to cover our ass in case OSHA showed up or we had something happen on the job site. And that was about it, right? And I don't think that is maybe a whole lot different than everybody else in the room. So we obviously saw that we needed to change that. We needed to improve on that. When we started using Procore for our safety inspections about 6 years ago, that was kind of the first step to that, was to kind of digitize that process and kind of explain of where we are today. Again, just a snapshot of what it used to look like. And if you look on the one on the left, that is from 2020. So it wasn't even that long ago during the pandemic, all right? We were still using it the old way, which is kind of crazy to think about. So the first thing that we had to do was to completely, go digital with how we manage safety on the job site, whether it's our safety inspections, how we, tracked observations, how we inputted incidents, injuries, near miss, property damage, how we tracked written warnings. We had to make sure we had a digital process for all that information, for all of the safety metrics, the quote unquote, the leading indicators that we like to track on the job site. That was the first step. We use Origami Risk for all of our safety incident reporting. Again, that's your injuries, near misses, property damage. We use Origami for all of our safety violations. And then we use Procore, obviously, for all of our safety inspections and our safety observations. And for the safety inspections, you're going to see MVP associated with that. That's what we call our safety inspections. We call it McCarthy Vital Processes. So when you see that, that's our Procore safety inspection process. So once we did that, all right, we had a digital bucket for safety inspections, observations. We had a digital bucket for incidents, property damage, near miss, safety violations. We use Oracle for all of our project information if we wanted to track staffing, which trade partners were where. Everything was now in a quote-unquote digital bucket, but the problem with that is they were not tied together. If I wanted to go look up something related to injuries or incidents, I had to go into Origami and run a report. If I wanted to see something related to our safety inspections, I had to go into Procore and run a report. If I wanted trade partner information, I had to go into Oracle and run a report. So it was still, the job sites were, they were submitting all the information to us. The job sites really weren't, going in there and analyzing and looking at all the data. It was still, hey, we have to submit this when something happens, and it goes off into a digital platform, never to be seen again. It was only within the safety department where we the ones looking at the information. We would extrapolate whatever, trends or anything that we wanted the job sites to focus on. We would force feed it back to the job sites. It just wasn't a very efficient process, all right? So where we are today and kind of what we're going to talk about is now that we had everything in Procore, we had everything in Origami, all of our safety documentation, all of our safety metrics, the last step was to bring everything together using business intelligence into a single view that is now viewable and accessible by everybody within the company. Our project teams have access to it, safety department has access to it, VP Ops, executive leadership has access to it, and we'll kind of talk about the benefits of that here in a little bit. But that was kind of the last step was, once we created everything into a digital process, bringing it all up top in a single view using business intelligence was kind of the last piece. So we've got a team at McCarthy, a BI team that kind of helped us, with this process. I want to say it was probably a good year and a half from once we decided, hey, we see the need for this, the technology is there. It took a good year and a half to, to get everything, where we think it is now. And it's something we're still kind of tweaking and it's still evolving, but this is kind of the team that supported that. They wanted to make sure that I included all the technology and all the components that we use for this report. If you've got any questions along the way, I would just ask not to ask anything on this slide because I really can't speak to it. But anyway, this is all the tools and the resources that we used to generate the safety dashboard. All right, now let's kind of talk about the impact. You heard me talk about the challenges at the beginning and why our process was so antiquated, why it wasn't working, why it was just nothing more than a check the box. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about the benefit of that. Go back to what I was mentioning earlier, where it was just nothing more than a report card system. If you did it, great, you got a check mark next to your job each month. If you didn't, you're going to get a nasty call or an email from your director, and it just kind of created a negative stigma with the job sites. I would go out and visit job sites, and if it happened to be towards the end of the month, I'd always get a joke, oh, you're just out here to make sure we're getting our stuff in on time, that type of thing. So anything to do with safety inspections, incident reporting, it just had a negative stigma to it, just by the way we tracked it. So now that you've got a process where everything is now available in a single view, I say one of the coolest transitions is it's a more, just call it proactive approach versus a reactive approach to safety. Again, back in the day, we as a safety department, we had to take all the information that was submitted to us, we had to scour through it, see if there are any trends there, and then force feed that back to the job sites. Now the job sites have access to everything that they submit, everything our trade partners submit into Procore. Our job sites now see everything in a kind of a live view. They can see what's been inspected from a safety standpoint. They can see what's been identified as a hazard. They have all that information at their fingertips, and it's kind of transitioned into from a reactive standpoint where we would take the information and then a week or two later give it back to the job sites. Now the job sites have it, and it's a much more proactive approach. The increased transparency, and I'll talk about this here in a bit, is better participation. Okay, and I say that just by the job sites now, they see the value of having all this information available at their fingertips. They see, why it's important from an inspection standpoint with how we document incidents. They see the value of that, and that is driving up participation. Fewer and fewer do we as a safety department or the director or the apps have to kind of get on our job sites to, hey, you need to do this stuff, it's important. Policy says you got to do it, right? Where it's now just more of an organic, job sites see the value of it, and we're seeing a huge boost in participation. Informed executive leadership, again, everybody has access to this information, and I'll show a screenshot here in a second, kind of what that looks like, but there are customized reports now that our executive leadership has access to, where if they want to see what's our incident rate on, November, whatever day it is today, 8th, they can go in there and see exactly where we are year to date. If they want to go in and see is there a particular job site that's maybe struggling with some incidents, they've had some recent injuries, they can go in there and see that. So when they go out to the job sites, they're more better informed as far as what's going on. Our clients have access to all this information as well. It's a huge boost when you're sitting in an owner meeting and they're starting to bring up the topic of safety, and if they want to know kind of how we're managing the job site, how we as the GC are managing safety, we can pull up the dashboard, we can show them how proactive we have been we've done this many safety inspections, we understand this trade partner has had a little bit of a challenge, they've had some incidents, this is what we've done to try to help manage that. We can show that to the owner, again, full transparency. They see it, and it's been a big value for them just to kind of see on how we manage safety using this dashboard. And then a shift in our evaluation of how our project teams manage their safety program and what we now prioritize. And I'll talk about this a little bit towards the end, but you go back 5 years ago, what was the best tool that we used to evaluate a job site safety performance? What's their incident rates? Okay, and for those of you who've been doing this business long enough, we've had projects in the past that are complete garbage. You walk onto the job site, housekeeping's a mess, nobody's wearing their PPE. It's just one of those cluster jobs that we've all had. It's been a constant struggle, but by some miracle, they had 0 injuries on the job site. And at the end of the day, we're looking at all these incident rates and we say, that was a good safety project. And I'm going, no, it wasn't. It was horrible. Okay? Or you've got the job on the other hand that did everything right, job site, the culture, everybody's out doing their job, but they had 2 unfortunate incidents, and we view them in a different lens as we view the job that had 0 injuries. So this has kind of changed our focus of kind of how we manage and kind of how we evaluate safety on the job site, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. The top bullet point, that's important. So think about, again, back in the day when we were still tracking it the old way. It's at the end of the month, right? It's October 31st. The project manager knows we've got to get our safety inspections. We've got to get them submitted today. They talk to the engineer. You got to go out there, get your safety, just get it done. So when they went out and did the safety inspection, what do you think that they were looking at? All the low-hanging fruit stuff. So we would see a safety inspection come in for housekeeping, they'd run out and do a fire extinguisher inspection, and they'd run out and inspect PPE. Just never mind that there was a crane on site doing steel erection or we've got a huge excavation. They would always hit the easy button, and all the inspections we would see come in at the end of the month were what I would call all the low-hanging fruits. Again, it's just 0 value. Now that we've got this available and everybody can kind of see what's going on, again, at their fingertips, we're starting to see a shift in how our job sites and what inspections that they're completing. No longer are we seeing the kind of the easy button, low-hanging fruit. We're starting to see the inspections match the risk profile of the job site. If we're going on structural steel, I can pull up the job site safety inspections for the last 30 days, and I'm going to see inspections related to rigging. I'm going to see inspections related to crane safety, to steel erection. What's really going on the job site, if we're heavy into concrete, I can go in and pull the reports for the last 2 weeks. That's what I'm going to see. If we're heavy into underground utilities, that's what we're seeing from the job sites. So we've gone away from the quote-unquote low-hanging fruit, easy button type inspections to where we're now seeing what's actually happening on the job site. It's way more relevant. So when we go in to see what the job sites are submitting, it's actually telling a story and painting a picture of what's actually happening on the job site. So that's been good. More involvement from our trade partners. Our trade partners have access to Procore, so they've got access to all of our safety inspections as well. So I would say this has kind of created a healthy accountability on our job sites. Everybody's been probably sat in a trade partner coordination meeting where we're beating up the trade partners because something that we see from a safety standpoint, and we're trying to get them to get better at that. But we self-perform a lot on our job sites, and we don't want to create that double standard where trade partners are held accountable more so than our own employees. So giving them access to Procore, they've got access to the dashboard. Again, you've got to manage it effectively, but it's kind of created a healthy accountability where we can sit in the weekly trade partner coordination meetings and both sides are talking about the issues that they submitted into Procore, what they're seeing on the job sites. And again, that's been really good, just kind of getting a little bit more collaboration between us as the GC and our trade partners. And then I mentioned the impact with the owners and the clients. They love it. We've got some clients that are really, really, involved from a safety standpoint, which is good. And it's helpful for us where if they've got concerns, if they come into a meeting and they bring up something they saw, we can easily pull up the dashboard and say, no, I understand, when you walk the job site today that you saw a challenge up on the roof. Here's what we've done in the last, couple days to address it. Maybe we had to write somebody up, we've addressed it, here we can show this to you. So being able to show them something, again, in real time to help address their concerns, and they can see that we're being proactive about it, they can see that we're managing it, we can download, we can print it, we can email it over to a client. That's been a big impact with how we use this dashboard. And then this is my favorite part to speak. I mentioned earlier, better transparency equals better participation. And this is kind of cool to see, the results of that. So from 2020 to 2021, our safety inspections increased by 8%. Okay, so our job sites are getting better at using our safety inspection templates. They're starting to see, kind of the value of that. But the hazards identified, that increased by 20%. So, the quality of inspections went up more than the quantity. So you can definitely see that, the job sites are starting to understand why we're doing it. They see the value of it. And again, it's kind of transformed. Well, go back to the previous slide where I was showing the Procore silo, the origami silo, and the Oracle silo. A couple years ago, again, the safety department, we were the ones that had to go in there, extrapolate all the reports, find the leading trends or the hazards or whatever, and then give that back to the job sites. They now see it, they've got access to it, they're seeing the information. We're getting phone calls from the project managers saying, hey, we found this issue where, we understand this is going on with a trade partner before you see it. We've already had a meeting with them, we're addressing it. So it's just been really, really cool to see over the last couple of years where it's transitioned from, it's no longer a safety kind of oversight tool. The job sites now are taking ownership of it. They manage it. They work with their trade partners, and it's been a good kind of partnership between us and the project teams. So that's been really cool to see the results. And if I were to create a similar chart from 2021 into 2022, and I know we're not done with 2022, those have gone up even more. So inspections have gone up 20% from 21 to 22. Hazards identified have gone up 35%. So we're getting even better with the job sites. They're no longer just submitting their inspections and everything's 100% correct and job site looks great. They're actually taking the time to identify what's happening on the job sites, what they see, because they know that we can see job site A over here is having some issues with whatever, scaffolding. Job site B over here is having the same issues. Job site C is having the similar issues, and we can kind of highlight this as something that's happening across a region or across the company. Project teams know that. They know that we're using this information. They see the value of it. Again, they're just getting way better at when they go out and complete an inspection, they're making sure to identify the issues. The other thing that's been pretty cool from the job sites is we've gotten as a safety department so many requests of, hey, can somebody come out to our project? Can we just come to our staff meeting and can you spend 30, 45 minutes? We've got some new project engineers. We've got some new assistant superintendents we've hired. Can you show them how to do the safety inspections in Procore? Can you just give them a little bit of a training on how to use the tool? That is happening across our job sites, across the entire company. So when we have new employees, our safety managers or regional safety managers, they now go out to the job sites and we'll just do Procore training for the staff. So understanding from the project manager standpoint that when they have new employees on the site, new employees to the staff, they want to quickly get those employees, used to the tool, used to using Procore, so they can quickly go out, start doing the inspections, and know that we're capturing that information. So that within the last year, we have gotten dozens of requests from job sites just to go out there and show our new employees how to use Procore, Origami, so that we can keep improving on this program. So again, it's been pretty cool, and I'll go back to what we're saying at the beginning. Just the better transparency, having everybody have access to this, our project teams, the directors, VP Ops. When our directors go out to the job sites, they've got access to this, and they can go and talk to the project manager, talk to the superintendents, and they don't have to ask questions. They can see what's going on. They can see they've had a recordable and a dozen injuries over the last 3 months. They can see that the project staff is doing their safety inspections, or maybe somebody that isn't. They can follow the trends. They can track everything from a trade partner standpoint. So it's been cool to see. Let's see here. I think I've got Oh, want to talk about too. So, each year at McCarthy, each region has a project award. We call it the Melvin McCarthy Awards, where we, award a project in each region, 2 projects, one large, one small, that we consider the best of the best. So they've got to go through a submission where they submit to the regional leadership why their project should be, eligible for the award. There's a team that goes through all that. They evaluate every project. They come up with 2 finalists. And, we've got a safety, submission that we have every project that they've got to submit on, and we'll kind of go through that and vote to see who's the best project. And the old form, all we prioritized were, incidents, recordables, lost time. That's all we tracked. And remember what I said earlier, right? You had one project that was just complete garbage, but had 0 injuries, and they're going to look gold on this report. Then you've had another project that was really, really good, but had 2 unfortunate recordables, and some executive could be looking at and trying to compare these projects on paper, and the wrong job could get nominated. So we've changed that up to where if you go to the new form, what's on top? What do we prioritize now when the job sites have to submit for the Melvin Award? How many MVP inspections did you complete? What's the ratio per exposure hours? Understanding that some job sites have a very, very large staff. Some job sites have a smaller staff, so we want to make sure there's a ratio to compare. But those are the top 2 things from a safety standpoint that we now evaluate our projects on how they manage safety. You notice what's at the bottom. Injuries, recordables, total project incident rate. So the first thing that we're going to look at is how well did you manage your safety program, okay? How many safety inspections did you do? How many hazards identified? Yeah, you may have done a lot of safety inspections, but if you didn't take the time to identify any issues and you just pencil whip the process, well, that's not going to reflect well in that evaluation either. So it's understanding the importance of, yes, you've got to do your inspections. We've got to make sure we're taking the time to identify the hazards. Near misses that are reported, that's on the bottom. And then the last thing is, yes, you're looking at the lagging indicators, which is your recordables and things like that, but we're really starting to prioritize, and the job sites now kind of understand that that's important, right? Just kind of, and I'll, kind of spend the last 5-10 minutes here just kind of showing some screenshots of what our dashboard looks like, how we utilize it, what our job sites are looking at, maybe what a director or VP Ops is looking at. So let me screen back here. These are the 4 things that we look at. So you see SCR, those are like your toolbox talks and some of the things that you've got to do each month. The MVP, that's our safety inspections. Then you've got incidents and safety violations. So the top 2 rectangles there, that's what we use Procore for. And then the bottom 2 are what we use Origami Risk for incidents and violations. And here's just an example of the incidents overview page. So we can track incidents by month, so we can see if we're trending the right way or the wrong way. That upper right, we're tracking it by body part. There's number of incidents. There's percent first aid. Go to the column over, 4 or 5 columns over where it says percent recordable, so the job sites can see, which body part, has the highest chance of becoming a recordable injury. Finger, number 1. I wish I had this information 15 years ago when we went 100% gloves at McCarthy. That would have saved me a lot of struggle with our project teams. But that's just kind of an example how we break that down. And then we can break it down. There's a details page where we can track it by trade partner. And you can click on a particular region. You can filter it to a particular job site. So we can track trade partners. We can track trades. Is there a issue with ironworkers more than there are electricians? Employee tenure, right? We always have a challenge with new employees. If you go to the, what did I do? Hit the wrong button. With new employees, so that's something that we track. So you can kind of see the different information that we look at here. And then again, this just kind of shows how you can filter, you can drill through. Everything that we enter into Origami is now available. So on this particular incident, if we wanted to look at, finger injuries related to a specific trade partner, you can break it down, you can run a report, you can email it, you can take a screenshot with it. So the cool thing is, and I could go on and on and on and on, but I don't need to bore you with all this information, but you can filter it, you can set it up, it's customizable 1,000 different ways based on what you want to see. And the other cool thing too is, when we put this report together, again, we're working with our BI team and our safety department to kind of put together the dashboard based on what we think, which metrics were most important that we think our job sites needed to pay attention to. We have gotten so many requests from our ops teams, from our job sites, from directors in ops and leadership of, hey, can we get this view added to the dashboard? All right, yeah, this is great, but there's an additional filter that we would like to see to break it down this way. So we're getting a ton of input from our project staffs of, hey, is there a way that we can tweak this a little bit? Can we revise this a little bit to kind of help, highlight a particular, whatever they want to look at. So we get these requests all the time from within the safety department. We work with the BI team. So it just goes to show you that the job sites are using the tool, for them to kind of go through it, and we constantly get this, the requests of, can we get this added? Can we change this? So that's pretty cool to kind of know that, how much is being utilized on the job sites. And again, I don't need to bore you, but we can track, which job sites are doing the most inspections. Down below, we can see which employees are doing the most inspections. It makes it easy for the project managers to track their staff to see, who's meeting the bar, who's doing what they should be doing, who's not. And the one thing that we wanted to kind of, prioritize, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, when we put this report together and started to develop this dashboard, we, intentionally, we wanted to make sure that this was not something to be used as a tool to, hammer our job sites with, right? We did not want this to be a tool that was just going to be used as, oversight on the job sites. Yes, we need to manage and see which job sites are doing it the best. If there's a job site that's struggling, we need to address that, get them to be better involved with how they manage safety. But we wanted to make it crystal clear to our project teams, this is a tool to help us manage safety. It's not a tool for your director, your VP Ops, to now further scrutinize the things that you're not doing from a safety perspective. So that was one thing that we wanted to make crystal clear when we put this together is this is going to be a tool that's going to help us, that we're all going to use, and it's not going to be kind of what it used to be. So again, just you get the point, right? You can kind of go a little crazy with how you use this tool and all the different ways that that we can evaluate our safety program. But I want to highlight again, and this really kind of paints the picture of just how well our project teams, are now managing our safety program. Go back to what I was saying at the beginning of it was just nothing more than a report card tool. Did you submit your information on time each month? Yes or no? And that was it. And now we're actually at the point where our job site teams, they see the value of it. They're using it more and more. We're getting better and better with how we identify issues on the job sites. And that bottom number, that 20%, like I said, is so far increased to 35% for 2022. And we're hoping to keep that growing and growing where we're seeing better quality on our safety inspections, in addition to, increased quantity. So pretty cool to kind of see the overall, evolution of that from where we were just 2 years ago to where we are now. And this is still relatively new. We rolled this out to all of our project teams in the fall of last year. So it's really only been out there for a little bit more than a year. And we're really we're already seeing some great results from it. The other thing I want to just kind of highlight is, celebrating the wins. When our job sites are inputting the information, what they see with their inspections, and we see that information, and we're able to, improve how we manage safety on the project. Just one example, overhead protection. If you were to look at, that column there on the right where it says, MVP failure breakdown by item, we're able to see that our job sites weren't doing a very good job of maintaining toe boards and orange netting for perimeter protection. So what did we do to address it? We started using a better system. So you go back to last year, and by and large across the board, this is what our job sites now use for perimeter protection because we knew based on their inspections, based on what they were telling us, the old way of perimeter protection wasn't working very well. So now we've gone to this, and if you were to go back and look at our safety inspections now, that top number of what the hazards are with toe boards and perimeter protection has gone way down. We just don't have an issue with it anymore because we changed the system we were using based on the feedback we were getting from the job sites. So that's just one example of where we can go back to the project teams and say, thank you, based on your feedback, based on what we're seeing from a trend, this is kind of what we can do to address that and get it fixed, get it corrected before something bad happens. And that's the goal. And this is something that we use as a company where we're always tracking our incident rate year after year after year. We started tracking total project where we track trade partner hours and injuries. This was back in 2005, and you can see our results year after year. And if you look at the top, those are some of the more relevant, what we think are impactful programs that we've implemented over the years with our trade partners. And when we look back 3 years from now, I feel pretty confident that for 2021, when we develop the safety dashboard with business intelligence, that's going to be something we look back on 3 years from now that's going to really drive our results moving forward. So we're excited about it. Again, it's only been in place on our projects for a little more than a year. We couldn't be happier with the results and kind of how our project teams are using it. So it's been pretty cool. So we've got about 5-6 minutes left. That's all I've got. Any questions from anybody? Yes?
Does McCarthy require every individual on site to have access to Procore?
They just automatically do have access to it. So if you're a project team member, you've got access to Procore.
What about trade partners?
We don't require it, so we make it available to them. But we're starting to see more and more trade partners starting to use it.
Okay.
Yep.
Another question, without making this a sales pitch to Origami Risk, what exactly is it that you use that platform for?
So that is for all of our injury reporting, what we call incident reporting. So if you've got an injury on the job site, if you've got a property damage, a forklift back into a scaffold, if there's a near miss where something happened but nobody was injured, we use Origami to report all of that. And then we use Origami to report all of our safety violations. So if we have to go issue a safety violation to somebody, we use Origami for that.
What is, this is dangerous, what is Procore lacking that necessitates the use of Origami Risk?
I don't have a good answer for that right now. Origami was something that our risk management department was using for years for all of our workers' comp reporting, all of our fleet vehicle, reporting, and it was just something that we saw as an opportunity to align with safety, so we used Origami. So I would say it was more so there was familiarity with Origami, and we just decided to, and this was years ago, so I don't think it's anything where Procore can't do that. It was just at the time there was familiarity there, and we just decided to merge risk with safety. Yep.
Now, it's all different. Project size are different, company size are different, all this. But at what point do you put a safety manager rather than saying it's a superintendent's responsibility? I mean, is it a size expectation? Is it a dollar figure?
Yes. So we've had this dollar value within our safety guidelines since I've been with the company for 20 years, and it's been $70 million. And keep in mind what $70 million was when I hired on in 2002 does not buy you what $70 million buys you now. So even though that's the number, I mean, any job over $70 million will have a full-time safety professional, but we also understand there's a lot of projects that are less than $70 million. It could be something because it's remote. It could be we've got a heavy self-perform presence. So we're looking at that, and that's not just the complete, go, no-go, but that's what we've always had, but we still evaluate job sites, with different, different issues, so with how we staff safety. Any other questions? Yes?
Yes, I got here a little late, so I'm not sure if you covered this already or not, but my question is, did you integrate this with Procore Analytics to generate the detail of the data that you were showing us in those reports?
We did not.
Strictly Procore?
It's basically, we've got the information that lives in Procore, and then we've got a BI team as part of our IT department at McCarthy, and they were the ones that created a data warehouse, and I had a slide up there with the technology that they used. It was business intelligence and a few other technologies that they used to create that dashboard. Yeah, but we did not use Procore Analytics. Yep.
Are you utilizing Procore for like a repository of your lessons learned and or toolbox talks and or using that to distribute out to your project teams?
We do not. We do not. Nope.
Any suggestions on how you do that?
On how we, for Toolbox Talks?
Yeah, I mean, is there?
I mean, you mean on how we track the Toolbox Talks?
No, but like, you know, just in terms of from a resource library, you know, that. if
We've
you're
got
building
an,
as familiarity with
yeah, yeah.
Procore,
So
the
we've got an
Procore
internal
platform.
website that has a library
Got it.
of everything that you just referenced.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
How closely does McCarthy work with your Procore, what is it called, an SPC? Is that what it's called? The person that's your advocate, kind of,
Yeah.
from Procore? Do you guys have like monthly meetings with them to innovate and integrate, or what is that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the best person to answer that. That would be somebody within our IT group, but I know that there's constant collaboration between that group and Procore. So, because I know anytime that we've got minor requests within our observation tool, like, hey, if we want to add this as something to track, like, it gets done like that. So it's that relationship's there. So, yep.
Are you using observations to complete the inspections? So if there's a deficiency, do you follow up with observations?
Yes. So like within we call them the MVP, which is the inspection template within Procore.
Yeah.
If somebody goes in and identifies an issue, it immediately creates an observation that they go in a document, they can distribute, email out to somebody. Yep.
Do you have a library of inspections for each of the different hazard types, or do you use kind of one inspection that covers a range?
So we've got about 38 different
Okay.
inspection templates. Now, when you go to create a safety issue, there'll be a drop-down box as to what the, call it, hazard or the category is. Yeah. Yep.
Celebrating the wins, do you have a specific formula of how you celebrate your win on a job site? Is it by man hours or milestones?
No, it's just more or less if we can see that based on the information coming back from the job sites that there's an underlying issue here that, you know, kind of staring at us in plain sight, and if we can see that, like for example, the perimeter protection, it's like you see the information that's being submitted by the project teams, and then when we go out to the job sites and we can see, yes, we've got exposure here, we've got to fix this. So, you know, we implemented that solution, just we're doing away with orange debris netting, we're using a permanent panelized system, but there's not a formula, but it's basically, yeah, I mean, we talk about that in our peer group meetings of here's a success where because of the information you all are telling us, based on as well as what we see on the job sites, we're able to make this change, and that's good. That's the way it's supposed to work. So just kind of keep advocating that. Yep.
In terms of the required inspections for job site teams, is there a specific formula? I know that you had hazard hours
Yeah.
out there, but if somebody's in pre-con or something, is there a requirement for them to go to the job site?
No, so we've got a basic requirement where if you're a staff member, you've got to do a minimum of 1 inspection a week. It's a minimum, and it's a very low bar. Most people are doing a lot more than that, you know, but it's basically 1 a week is what we ask for project team members to do. Yep. All right, we're kind of up on time. Anybody have any other questions? Nope. Thank you. Appreciate it.